know it's 5 o'clock and we have quorum. Do we have anyone else here? Oh, yeah, we do.
Yep.
Okay. Should we call
I think we probably can move over. I'll let Ellen know if you want to.
Yeah, let's call this meeting to order. And are there any comments from the public on closed session items? Doesn't appear to be so. So let's adjourn to closed session and we'll return at 6 o'clock.
See you soon.
At 6. All right, looks like everybody's here and it's 6 o'clock. So let's reconvene our meeting. We are on item 5, adoption and approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. On to item 6, special recognitions, reports and presentations. 6.1, introduction of new Assistant Superintendent of Ed Services. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Gary, is this you?
No, it's Matthew.
Oh, it's going to be Matthew. You know, but we are super excited I'm going to let Matthew introduce Tony. And I don't see Matthew on at this moment in time. Can we let Tony in? Ashley,
Michelle, can you, Gary, can you or Michelle make me a co-host? I am the Petaluma City Schools that is not a host or co-host currently.
Matthew will be joining us in just a moment.
Let's see.
He's coming right now.
Tony, welcome. And I'm going to let Matthew do the introductions and then I'll follow up. All right, Matthew, you're up.
Hi, everybody. So, all right. So I want to take this opportunity to introduce our new Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, Mr. Tony Hua. Tony will assume his duties on July 1st. Tony is both grateful and excited about the opportunity to become the next Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services of Petaluma City Schools. Deep in his core values is a belief that education is liberation, and all children deserve the right to a quality and equitable education that nurtures and prepares them to be successful, caring, and productive citizens in a global world. Throughout his 20 years of experience in education, Tony has demonstrated an ability to build strong relationships, collaborate with others to get results, and transform systems to increase equity. In his most recent role as the Deputy Superintendent, overseeing the Educational Research and Pedagogy Council for Gateway International Schools in Vietnam, Tony helped to develop international bilingual programs, advised the development of a model secondary educational program, led professional development on research-based best practices in teaching and learning, and coached and mentored school leaders. Prior to his work in Vietnam, Tony led in various district level roles in Southern California as the Director of Secondary Education for the Linwood Unified School District, the Executive Director of Secondary Education for the Compton Unified School District, and the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services for the San Ysidro School District. Tony brings strength in coaching and developing secondary principals. He developed and expanded college and industry partnerships to improve college and career initiatives, and he worked to restructure continuation and alternative education programs to ensure equal access and equity in programming. As Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services in San Ysidro, Tony was tasked with turning around a struggling district through oversight of educational services, special education, technology, state and federal programs, and special projects. Tony worked to systematically align curriculum and assessments through the district and established a data-driven process to make decisions. Tony coached and mentored site and district administrators and developed and implemented a robust after-school program. Prior to his work at the district level, Tony served as the transformational principal at Fireball High School in Linwood, California from 2011 to 2015. Through Tony's leadership, the graduation rate rose from 69% to 90%, with an even greater increase in the rates for students who identify as Latinx and African American. In addition, suspension rates dropped from 12% to less than 2%. Tony has a deep belief in equity for all students. He's bilingual, biliterate, and bicultural in Vietnamese. He has experience implementing advanced via individual determination, AVID, International Baccalaureate, IB, and dual language immersion programs, and is a strong advocate of high quality bell-to-bell instruction, believing that we need to make every minute count when we're with our students. Tony believes that his experience as a teacher, principal, and district leader supporting elementary and secondary education has prepared him to make a significant impact as the next Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services in Petaluma City Schools. Tony earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in Literature, Science, and the Arts from the University of Iowa and a Master of Arts degree in Secondary Education from Loyola Marymount University. Tony also holds a single subject teaching credential and an administrative services credential. Congratulations and welcome to Petaluma City Schools, Mr. Tony Hua.
Welcome, Tony.
Tony, if you want to say anything at this time.
You're muted.
You got to unmute yourself.
He is unmuted.
There you go.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm excited to be here. I'm going to move into Petaluma hopefully shortly. So I'm excited to be a part of the community, excited to be a part of the school community, and working with such a great team that I've gotten to know over the last day or so. So yeah, I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work.
Welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
This is a really, really, really good hire. You know, Tony, we talked a little bit today. We of course went through the interview process, but it's a perfect transition for Cliff. There's a lot of very similar temperament, very thoughtful. He's definitely gonna, you know, as we talked today, measure twice before we cut. And he's got a proven track record. So it's a very important, critical hire right now as we make that transition back and start really digging in and looking at what does academic equity look like in the district. So, because I know that's an important piece moving forward.
Great.
Welcome again, Tony.
Thank you.
Welcome to Petaluma City Schools, Tony.
We're excited to have you on board. So the next agenda item here is some very, very exciting news. So we wanted to have Melinda Susan is going to do an introduction here of our 2021-22 Sonoma County Teacher of the Year.
Wow.
Can we pull her up?
Yeah,
Danielle Kennedy?
Ashley, can we pull
She's
Danielle?
on her way.
Awesome. There she is. There she is. Oh, it is my absolute genuine pleasure to introduce you to Miss Danielle Kennedy, Sonoma County's Teacher of the Year. I cannot think of anybody more deserving than this honor than Danielle. She teaches one of our special day classes for grades 3 through 6. And the students in her program have autism, intellectual disabilities, some physical disabilities, wide range of learners in this program. Little background with Danielle. I met her when she was in an IEP meeting for her own son. He was in our preschool program. And I think I was taken with her exuberance and Southern charm and beautiful advocacy for her child. And then next year, she actually applied for an instructional assistant position. And as you know, during the interview process, I discovered that she had a general education credential. And so we absolutely hired her for this IA position and saw just what an incredible educator she was. And the next year I had an open position and I said, hey, have you ever thought about special ed? I think you'd be great. you can be an intern. Little did she know. So that was the start of our relationship with Miss Danielle. And I tell you, this year of all years, SCO was really looking for teachers who stepped up during the pandemic in terms of educating their students and just, stepping up to the challenge. She steps up to every challenge ever put in front of her, but this one was big. And she had a group of students she had never met before, whom she had to bond with online immediately. And beyond that, she shared all of her resources, had an incredible just arsenal of different online techniques and strategies. And she didn't keep those to herself. She did countywide trainings. She taught our teachers, every single one of them. She held patio conversations with teachers that were having a hard time with distance learning and technology, and she gave them all of her support and resources there. Honestly, I think she's the person who always says, "We've got this, y'all." And so we always do. And we know Danielle says that. And she gives everything she has. She says, "Take everything, just take what I have. Don't recreate the wheel, just take what I have." And she supports her parents with great empathy. She is a single parent with a student, and her son has an IEP. He's doing great. He's a brilliant guy. But she goes above and beyond and understands that parents are doing their gosh darn best during this pandemic, and she gave them a lot of confidence during this. Parents really say that she's the first person who ever truly got their child. And I always say that with special educations, we definitely modify, but Danielle, there are no square pegs fitting into round holes in Danielle's classroom. She has every single darn shape in her classroom. And if a student comes in with a different shape she's never come across before, she's going to do everything in her power to change that program for that child. She really gets to the core of them. I can give you a really brief example. She has a student with autism. He's hyperlexic, obsessed with letters, and most people were hiding them from him because it distracted him quite a bit. And lo and behold, Danielle sends me a video a couple months into school. She had created these giant letters, and he was jumping on them and spelling words. So she wasn't hiding letters. She was making the letters his and teaching him because of his great love for them. So I think she's also the most creative and can create a castle out of rubble. I think our program manager came and said that beautifully. Just want to read you a real quick quote from one of the parents on the application. And it said, "Danielle Kennedy has gone above and beyond in the year of forced reinventing of one's career, also known as a global pandemic. She has kept an easygoing, upbeat attitude with students, provided endless creative and appropriate curriculum, and infused joy into all Zoom interaction, making it somehow feel warm and personable. She's been a bright spot in every dark and challenging year, in a very dark and challenging year." And that was across the board, the kind of comments that we got. And the selection committee just said that they were instantly struck by the strength of this application. And I hope you will all join me in supporting her as she applies for California Teacher of the Year. We are more than hopeful. She is an amazing educator with the biggest heart and one of the best special educators I have ever known in my long career. So Danielle, congratulations. South County and Petaluma State Schools are very, very, very proud of you.
I'll just say thank you. I don't have to give a speech like you, right, Melinda? Okay. But I will just say this because I was absent for 1 year from South County and PCS, not by choice. It just feels really good to be back. And I think in a year where all of us, honestly, myself really included, felt like I was just keeping my head above water at this point. It's just exciting, but I think special ed kids definitely just struggled a little bit more. I think we all just know that, not to take away from anyone's struggle. And so just for us to be recognized that as a whole for special ed, that we were doing everything we could for our kids, I'm pretty excited. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Great job. Really great job.
All right, we are on 6.3 Parent Square update.
That is us. I'm going to share my screen.
Oh, we get to see you.
Yes, hello everybody.
You're always behind the Petaluma City Schools.
Yes, usually I'm not on camera. So hello, most of you on screen know me, but for anyone who does not, I'm Ashley Collingwood. I'm the communications coordinator here at Petaluma City Schools. I do a lot of different things, ranging from the websites and social media to, of course, Parent Square, which we are here to talk about today.
Hello, I'm Dave Fischera, the Director of Innovation and Technology. I work with Ashley on a variety of different projects and initiatives, including Parent Square, the communication tool that we rolled out this year. And this evening, we're going to tell you a little bit about the conditions that led to us coming to Parent Square, and then the process that we went through to roll it out, and some of the feedback we've received on it so far. And then we'll talk about some of our goals for Parent Square moving forward, and then take some questions. So to start off with, Parent Square, it's a school-based communication tool engagement platform. And Parent Square created this slide here to show what it does and how it differentiates itself from the other offerings out there. And they put it in these three categories. And I think it's really a good way for us to see just what it is and all that it can do. So on the one hand, it's a mass communication tool. So it can do those email blasts, text blasts, if there's ever a need for emergency communication. You can also just do general mass email newsletter type communications really well. It integrates with the student information system, so you can do your attendance notifications automatically. Also, there's a two-way attendance communication piece, so parents can provide the reason for their student's absence easily through the platform. And any of the messages that are created in Parent Square, especially like the posts and newsletter type things, can be replicated into the social media and or your website. And then also on that mass communication side, there's a secure document feature that we have in our district that allows us to send out student documents like the progress reports, report cards, and as individual encrypted documents that go to the families. And we've leveraged that a few times this year already. Additionally, it's a classroom communication tool. So not only does it serve for these more mass communication needs, it can be used at the classroom level. So like I was saying, it ties into the student information system. The class roster information is in the platform. And so teachers can use it to message the parents and guardians of their classes, or even their students if the students are of a certain grade level. So they can do that through posts, which look like kind of a social media feed with the posts stacking up by chronological order. They also can do direct messaging within the classroom communication tool. Beyond that, there's some wonderful educationally supported aspects of the platform, like parent-teacher conference signups, volunteer signups, newsletters, etc. And we've seen all of these getting some use this year. And lastly, there are things that they call school services. So for example, forms and permission slips. The platform has a electronic signature feature, so that's legally binding, so it can be used for field trip permission slips, or even giving students permission to participate in a particular class. And then it has an RSVP calendar invite feature as well. And then the last two on there are things that we have yet to roll out in the platform, but the school directory and invoices and payments. You can collect payments and invoice electronically with this platform. We have another platform that we use for that at this time, so we have not explored that yet in Parent Square. That's a general overview of what it does and what it is. And so the question I think that comes next is, so why Parent Square? Why did we choose Parent Square for Petaluma City Schools, or how did it get selected? What was the impetus? So before Parent Square, we had another mass communication tool, and it just really wasn't meeting the needs of the district or our schools and classrooms. Some of the challenges were that the last one was just a one-way communication tool. So you could send messages out, but people could not respond. Then also, it wasn't integrating with our student information system to get the class rosters over into the system. So teachers couldn't use it to message their classes. They were having to pull all the contact info out of Aries and into whatever else they could use. And so it was pretty cumbersome in that regard. And then lastly, it was pretty limited in its support of multiple languages and translations. So we were looking for a new communication tool that would meet some of those needs. So Ashley and I had been researching and testing and exploring. And then came the COVID-19 pandemic. And we got a lot of feedback during those first months of the pandemic about just how challenging it was for families and parents to stay in touch with the school and teachers. And because the need for communication really increased, and teachers had selected lots of different great tools to communicate with their students, but those varied often from place to place. So for example, like at elementary school, a teacher might have selected Class Dojo as a platform to communicate with the family. And then maybe you might have a student, at junior high, and those teachers might be using Remind or email. And so one of the things we heard loud and clear is that it was difficult to track all the different channels coming from different directions. And so with those conditions, we took the idea of Parent Square, which we felt could solve the problems with our current or our past communication tool and the needs of the communication during the COVID-19 pandemic. We took the idea of Parent Square as both the communication tool for the district and for our classrooms to the Distance Learning 2.0 committee last summer. And that committee spent significant time researching and vetting the system, and ultimately recommended it as the communication tool, not only for the classrooms, but we recommended it for the district communications. And so we moved forward with the adoption. Now, one of the key features, some of the key features that really led there too, were that was two-way communication, and beyond that, the people, the families and guardians that were being communicated, with the teachers and school, they could select how they would like to be communicated with. So if they prefer to get email, they could select that. If they wanted to get text messages, if they wanted to get app notifications or go through the web portal, that was all defined by the end user. Whereas most other tools, that's not the case. When you send out the message, you define how it's going to go out. So that was a great point. And even beyond that, the user gets to choose the language that they would like the communications to come in. And so Parent Square supports many languages with automated translation features. And so something that was really powerful powerful in the platform is that as a user, you can select your language that you prefer, and this goes beyond the standard correspondence languages that the school offers. So schools offer correspondence languages when we have students whose primary language is over 15% of the students have a particular primary language, then schools offer that correspondence language. So predominantly that's English and Spanish. And that's what, in our district, that's what we are offering as a standard. However, Parent Square opens this far beyond those two languages, and it gives people the ability to select their preferred language of upwards of, they have more than 150 options. And so not only can the family receive the communication in their preferred language, but in the direct messaging, they can do direct messaging in their home language or the preferred language to the school, and then the school receives it in their preferred language, which in most cases is going to be English, and then they can write back, and the family will receive it in their home language. So it opens up and breaks down the barrier for direct personal communication between school and teacher and home when we don't necessarily share the same language. And so we thought that was really powerful. And so in this first year, we've been keeping an eye on that and thinking about how we can further develop that and spread the word about this availability. And that's, as you'll see later in our goals for next year with Parent Square, that's one of the features we want to work on. But right now, in the system, you can see the number of parents who have selected various languages that they prefer. And so you can see the majority right now are English, but here are some of the other languages that have been selected. So not not really high numbers in some of the other languages, but people have selected them. And so symbol to us that people can use this feature, but that's something we want to develop further, is getting the word out about this availability and helping people to know how to leverage this. So, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. At this point, Ashley's going to tell us about how we roll this out and how the Parent Square is being used in Petaluma City Schools.
So after we set up the implementation and got everything working last summer, we started off in August doing a lot of trainings, and I've listed out some of them here that I just pulled from last year's calendar. You can see, admin, certificated, different school levels, and of course, we had a family webinar that parents were invited to join, where they could come and learn about the platform. We really wanted to get people familiar with it and what it could do, so that they could really become engaged and get those communications and not have to stress about looking in 5 different places for their different communications throughout the rest of the year with the pandemic and everything. And then, of course, individual and small group meetings and trainings have been happening continuously throughout the school year. We have a little bit of data from Parent Square on our feature usage. So Dave was talking about all those different kinds of features that we have. And so when Parent Square breaks it down in their data, they list like 12 features. Some of those have sort of subcategories as well and sub features. But out of those 12 features, we're using 11 of them. As Dave mentioned, we're not setting up payments and invoices at this time, so that's the one of the 12 that we're not using. But even without a ton of training on certain things, like we've gotten people using all of the different things. So you can see like 17,000 posts, 300-something thousand direct messages, a bunch of smart alerts, calendar events. There were 906 posts requesting volunteers or signups. So like, for example, I know that Brian Dufour used those to allow staff to sign up if they wanted to get a COVID-19 test during the year when we started offering those. And he jumped on and learned that, and it was great. We've also had items be requested in posts. We've had photos and videos and files shared, forms and permission slips that went out and were signed. We've even had a few polls, which are kind of like a little mini survey where it's just one question and families can check which one they want to answer it. And then we've even had 43 Parent Square posts that were shared directly to social media, which is a great feature as well. Just a couple of examples of what some of those things are, right? We talked a little bit about posts. Those are the general everyday kinds of things that go out, right? The weekly updates we sent from the district are posts. You can send reminders about things like daily health checks or invitations to events, which can have RSVPs attached to them. You can send out school level posts, things about yearbooks, daily announcements, library messages, etc. The great thing is that all staff, have levels of access and can be given levels of access. So if a librarian wants to be able to post to students, that's potentially an option, and different things like that, or they can send it to the principal, etc. Then, of course, smart alerts, those are really the urgent things like David mentioned, right? We sent out stuff when the vaccine appointments became available for staff members, because that was really needed to get out urgently at that point because of just the way everything was going. We sent out the initial daily screening reminder for hybrid students because that was an important thing that people needed to know about that first day. And you can obviously send out, like we did a power outage notification at one point. We could do school closure announcements, etc., things like that. Forms, we did a little bit of a survey to different community members about COVID-19 testing if they were interested, if we provided it. Human interaction teachers sent out some forms with permission attached to them. There's a student teacher, at least one, who sent out permission forms that I was told about. Some very cool different levels of use going on. Dave mentioned secure docs as well. Those are great for things like progress reports and report cards, things that we want to be able to send out individual things to individual people securely in an encrypted manner. Fantastic use for that. The signups and volunteers, I mentioned the staff testing, family teacher conferences, that was a big use from teachers as well. And then just a couple of the other features that are used that haven't gone really over. Attendance notices and notes are set up for all the schools. So families get notices on attendance, and they can even send a note back via Parent Square by just clicking a button and sending a note, which has been a great feature for our schools. There's a way to do calendar integration where you set up your Google Calendar to automatically sync with Parent Square, the daily health screenings, of course, and then there's some great data and analytics and reporting and whatnot in Parent Square. Just want to touch on some of the interaction we've seen. So we've had about 4,400 parents interact with various types of posts. So you can see the more detailed stats here, a couple thousand people commented, more appreciated. We had some people RSVP, some people sign up for different things, signing up to bring items, even a bunch of forms completed, and even some votes and polls. I also wanted to touch on the distribution of posts. This is some sort of an interesting pie chart almost from Parent Square. You can see the majority are class posts, which is really what you want to see. Class posts tend to be the most viewed and interacted with, just even outside of Parent Square, but in messaging in districts in general, and then schools, and then districts. So this is a good distribution to see. I also do want to note, of course, that some of the district and school posts are showing up in group posts just because of the way that the system works. So like most of the weekly updates that went out are within group posts. So we sent out more than 59 district posts, but this still gives you kind of a general gist. And then sort of the big stuff, right? Reach and deliverability. The great news is that we have 98% contactability, which is fantastic. What that essentially means is that if we need to send out a smart alert, right, like a message that's going to go out, it's going to start out as a text. And if it can't reach them as a text, it's going to do a call. And there's also an email option within the smart alert, right? Those are the really urgent things that I mentioned earlier. 98% of our students were going to be able to reach one guardian some way. That might mean maybe we only have one phone number, but we still have one person. We have one person to contact at least. For some, we have 2, 3, 4, etc. And then on the right-hand side, you can see some sort of broken down people opting into and out of things. Essentially, what that means is that on things like the posts and the direct messages, the everyday kind of stuff, this is how people have opted into those. Right, so 81% of people have selected to receive emails, and that's the general setting that everyone comes in with, is receiving emails. 17% have opted to receive text just for those daily kind of posts and whatnot. And 39% have downloaded the app, which is kind of cool to see, because obviously when we started out here, we started with 0%. No one just had the app automatically. So now we have 39% of our families who've gone in, found the app, downloaded it, gotten set up, and are able to receive and communicate through the app. And then feedback, I don't really have any formal feedback right now. I haven't done surveys or polls or anything like that, but I talk to people a lot. I get people emailing me. So I went real quick before this and I pulled just some things that I could find in email messages. The overwhelming response that I've gotten from staff and family members and everyone is that they love this tool. They love Parent Square. It's been lovely to hear all of the good things that it's done, all the ways it's made life easier. There are always, as you can see in this right-hand column, definitely some suggestions and things that could be improved. Whenever I get those, I pass them on to Parent Square because they're not usually features that I have the possibility of fixing up or changing. And the thing that I've noticed is Parent Square has been really great about actually taking client feedback and changing their products. It's been lovely to see. So they always take that and they say, okay, we'll put it on our board. And, they talk about what's in development and whatnot. So like a few of the different things I've had requests for are related to direct messages, which is one of their big pushes, one of the things they want to fix up and improve upon and are currently working on. So I'm excited to see how the platform continues to improve. And then we're going to talk about some goals. Dave, do you want to start us off on the goals?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ashley. It's great to see all the usage that we've had in this first year. After you adopt something like this and then do the trainings, there's always a big question like, will this be embraced? Will people really use it? I think we're seeing in those numbers they have, so that's awesome. our goals for next year for Parent Square, as we continue with it, is to increase the use of the multiple language features. And one of the things that we are seeing with talking to Parent Square about this is that with your correspondence language, such as English or Spanish, the messages from Parent Square go out in those languages. So if you have a correspondence language of Spanish in Aries, you're going to receive your first message in Parent Square in Spanish. But if you have a language on the home language survey outside of those main correspondence languages, Parent Square is not necessarily aware of that, and it doesn't have a mechanism for sending anything in that language. And so there could be a situation where someone doesn't speak English or Spanish, and when they get that message in, let's say, English, inviting them to Parent Square, they don't know that there's an option to go in and select a different language. And Parent Square doesn't have a great answer yet for that, but we have some ideas on how we might use the data that we've reviewed with our student information system specialists about the different languages at our schools. We know whose home language survey indicates some other languages other than English and Spanish. And so that's something we want to work toward this next year, is coming up with a way to get a message in someone's preferred language, to let them know that you can go into Parent Square and select your preferred language. And then moving forward, you can communicate in your preferred language with the school and your teachers and vice versa. So that's something that we have as a goal to improve upon. That's, kind of falls into the further training and development of the use of the platform, both with our teachers and staff and the community. And then Ashley is going to talk a little bit about the goal of 100% contactability.
Yeah, so obviously we always want that goal, 100% contactability. We ever reach 100%, who's to say, but we're going to work towards that. And one of the things that Parent Square did that was kind of a big update that they made actually during the year this year in April was that they came out with what they call pure contact, which is essentially a way to go in and verify your contact information through Parent Square, which means that families or staff or even students, the students who are of age are in Parent Square, when they log into Parent Square for the first time, they see like a contact verification report, like, is this the correct email? Is this the correct phone number? And they can go in and say, oh no, this is the wrong phone number. Oh, it's correct, yes. And essentially staff members at the different school and district admin levels can see those reports, and then we can make those changes in our actual student information system. So it's essentially a way for people to report incorrections and to get that information to us so that we can update, which is really wonderful because a lot of the times families or even staff members don't know to go in or think to go in to change their phone number. So, if I got a new phone number, what's the chance I'm going to remember, oh yeah, I better go into Escape or talk to HR to go update that for the databases. So this is a really easy way for them to interact, especially with the amount of people that we have using Parent Square. And so that's still pretty new to us and we're still learning, but it's been very exciting. And we've been using it a little bit as we're testing out the waters, and it's been really good. So I'm excited to move forward with that and get even more correct contact information for everybody.
Can I ask a quick question on that, Ashley?
Yeah, absolutely.
On that contactability, how many adults does a student get allocated for access to Parent Square and that information?
So it kind of depends. The parents come from our student information system. They come from Aries. So I'll try to break it down like really quickly, but essentially there's a contact page and people can add contacts to that page. So you can add a mother or father, another mother, a grandmother, or whoever, and you could say this person wants to be contacted. You can set a preference that allows them to be pulled into Parent Square, and you can really do that for as many people as you put in there. So it depends on the different users. Some have 1, some have 5,
And so when you say contactability, it's the percent of all the adults on all those lists, or the percent of students who has any adult that's being contacted?
The percent of students who have at least 1 adult who can be contacted. And so that's not to say the percent of all adults, but at least 1 person. If there was an emergency, we could reach 1 adult in that family. at least, if not more.
Now, as a parent using this, you know, the big thing for me that makes it such a great tool is it's one stop for both my kids at both their schools and all of their teachers at once. And that is a huge, huge help.
Yeah, 98% in the first year is like unheard of. I mean, I think, you know, parents and guardians are a more captive audience than normal, maybe app or tech users. But so then do we just call the other 2%? Like, how are they contacted if, for example, in an emergency or something?
So I can't pull it up to show you, but I can describe essentially in Parent Square, there is a couple of different lists that I can and other users can go into, and we can review that, and we can, we kind of started doing this recently, but it's going to be a little bit of a bigger picture with more people involved kind of deal, because you get, each student is a specific circumstance, right? Some students, we go in and there's a flag like, oh, you can't contact this person. So we want to reach out to the school because they know families better, and have the school make sure that that's done correctly, you know, and we get the correct people in there, and we don't put in incorrect people. And then there are some capacity for us to say, oh, this is a simple thing that we couldn't fix. But like sometimes the parents and guardians are in areas, they're just not in the right place. And that's not too terrible to try to fix.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I had another question. You all might not know, but since we have so many feeder districts, do we know if any of them are looking to adopt Parent Square? Because I could imagine having a kid at Old Adobe and then a kid at PCS, and that would be a pain in the butt. Still, that's not our problem, but
yeah, it's there is a very large segment of the county that are using Parent Square, but it's some of our feeders are using it, some are considering it.
Yeah, I wanted to mention something about that, Caitlin, and when Sheldon talked about the one-stop shop, it made me think of it, because one of the features of Parent Square is that it will identify you as a parent of kids in multiple districts and bring them all into one portal. So we do have some Petaluma districts outside of PCS who are already using it, and so those parents can see their kids from PCS and not in PCS all in one portal. And I see my daughter in Annalee, and I see my Petaluma schools all in one place. It's a pretty neat part of the platform. It really makes it easy for families to, you know, keep track of things.
totally. That's awesome. Cool.
Great pick on this platform.
Yeah. Great job. Great job. Fascinating.
I know everybody in my family loves it.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Ashley. All right, we are at item 7. This is a time for comments from the public on non-agendized items. So if you have a comment on something that's not in our agenda, this is the time to put your full name in the chat with the topic of what you'd like to speak on. And I'll read our policy on public comments. Under Government Code Section 54954.38, members of the public have the right to address the governing board on any items of interest, provided it relates to the subject matter jurisdiction of the school district. While Government Code allows speakers to criticize district policies, procedures, programs, services, and/or employees, the district does have a policy specific to complaints against employees. Should comments from the public pertain to specific district employee, the board requests that the complaint first be submitted in writing to the employee's immediate supervisor for investigation. If the comment is about something that is not on the agenda, it can only be heard during the public comment on non-agendized items period, which is right now. Once that part of the meeting is over, comments will only be taken on agenda items during the discussion of those items. The board values public comments, and although we cannot take action or discuss items not on the agenda, we do listen carefully and appreciate input from the public. Public comments are subject to a 4-minute per person limit or a 20-minute limit per subject matter. So do we have any comments on non-agendized items?
The chat is open.
Make sure you put your full name and the topic. Yay. So we're going to close the chat.
Okay.
I want to thank everybody for that.
I think it's your early retirement gift. Gary.
Yes, please. Yes.
All right, so we are moving on to item 8, report on activities and correspondence of school board members. Let's see, since the last school board meeting, we had attendance at Superintendent Gary Callahan's retirement party. We attended a webinar on AAPI student needs and how to address them in this post-COVID environment, or soon to be post-COVID. We attended a CHIPA meeting and a webinar on communicating in times of change and crises. All right, on to item 9. Now we're coming to the consent agenda. So we're going to open up comments from the public on consent items. And so if you have a comment on anything under item 10 of our agenda, this is the time to put your name in the chat along with the topic that you would like to speak to.
Again, put your full name and the specific item. Yay. That's number 2. I'm 2 for 2. We're going to close the chat.
All right, so we have one speaker, Sal, who would like to speak on items 10.4.1 and 10.4.2. Sal, yeah, we got you on now. Go ahead, you have 4 minutes.
Thanks. Hi, Sal Andropoulos, they, them pronouns with the North Bay LGBTQI families in Petaluma Tide. Just wanted to put forward some questions regarding the 2 MOUs that are on the consent agenda regarding the Keeping Kids in School program, which it looks like I think involves a partnership between PCS and Sonoma County law enforcement, specifically the Sonoma County Probation Department, which leads the Keeping Kids in School program related to student attendance. And I think one MOU seems to pertain to the partnership in general in terms of services like case management that looks like PCS will pay the probation department for, and the other one covers information sharing with by PCS with law enforcement. And so these questions got sent in by email as well, but just wanted to put them forward here. And the questions are, I guess, first, just why is county probation or law enforcement involved in student attendance issues? And secondly, why specifically does PCS participate in this program? Because it seems like one that is looking at the website of the Keeping Kids in School program, it says it serves select students and schools across the county, which seems to indicate that you don't have to participate in it necessarily. And another question is, just to what extent will these services align with or be shaped by things like the Circle Up trainings or other restorative justice practices? And how do they align with the district's expressed values as they relate to addressing inequities, such as the disproportionate rates of discipline and criminalization that BIPOC and LGBTQIA+ students and students with disabilities are often subject to? Another question is just at what point and how often are PCS students brought directly into contact with the juvenile justice system, such as truancy court, through this program? And lastly, just wondering if PCS can present information regarding alternatives to the Keeping Kids in School program, such as like maybe greater collaboration with local nonprofits that like in a way that doesn't involve or subsidize law enforcement. And can those alternatives be brought before the board before the MOUs are approved? Because that seems to me to be a little more in line with the values and initiatives that PCS is currently focused on with regard to equity and centering the voices and experiences of students who, often tend to be the most marginalized. So thank you.
Thank you, Sal, for raising those questions. And we can discuss this because we are on item 10. Liz, do you would you like to address any of those questions that Sal raised?
Yeah, of course. So Keeping Kids in School is a partner that we've had for many years, and it is connected with probation in the sense that, so generally in the larger SARB process, which is the School Attendance Review Board, if we have students who have truancy issues, we do everything we can at the site level to get them to attend school. Those include home visits, attendance review team meetings with principals, with counselors, and giving supports to the family. And that is the level that Keeping Kids in School engages with our district. We have a case manager, Chelsea Witry, and essentially what we do is principals or counselors will look at their attendance, and they'll vet through, students that they may be able to help themselves, families that they're working with in order to get, and then maybe families that are a little bit more difficult to reach. And at that point, we typically tap on Keeping Kids in School, and Chelsea Witry will put them on her caseload. And then she's the one who will do home visits, who will check in with families, send letters about the importance of coming to school. She gets to know families. Sometimes she'll walk students to school. And it's sort of this all-inclusive service to get students at the tier 1 level of attendance issues to come back into school and to bring them back into the fold. And so that's essentially the role of Keeping Kids in School. What Sal asked also is, what's the connection with attendance and probation? And so if a student went beyond that and they continue to have truancy issues, students that we just don't see, a principal from around the county, because I'm the county and the Petaluma area SARB officer. So they'll recommend students to come to SARB, which is the School Attendance Review Board, at which point we meet with the students, we meet with the families, we come up with a different plan, if Keeping Kids in School isn't capturing them. Chelsea Witry also sits on that panel. And then we try to engage students that way. Eventually, if we're still not seeing students and families, we can recommend that, that they go along to the DA, and that's where the county probation piece gets involved. However, as you know, with distance learning in the 2021 school year, because of COVID, SARB was on hold altogether. So we didn't do that. So instead of engaging into the SARB process with us, what Chelsea did was just take on an extra caseload of students who, had gone MIA during distance learning, because we did see an increase in students that just weren't engaging at all. And she just increased her caseload and did more tier 1 interventions with those kids. So that's been the role of Keeping Kids in School over many years. We're waiting to hear from the DA if they're bringing back the SARB process in the county next year, or if they're not going to bring it back just yet. So I think that answers all of Sal's questions about, what is it? What do they do? What's the involvement with probation?
Liz,
In the bigger picture.
Liz, who
Yeah.
does this woman, Chelsea, you said her name was? Who
Yes.
does she work for?
She works for Keeping Kids in School, is Seneca.
She's not a probation officer.
No, she's not a probation officer. She works for, the broader organization is called Seneca, SENECA. It's a county, I believe, nonprofit organization that
They have
supports.
agencies all over the North Bay. So my question is, why can't we just contract directly with them?
We do.
My question.
They are Keeping Kids in School. So Seneca runs that organization, but there's a connection between them and the DA's, the district attorney's office. And so that's why probation is written into that MOU. But you'll see in the MOU that the contract is with Keeping Kids in School, which is Seneca.
Maddie, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm still very confused because it's a probation grant, right? And also it has information sharing MOU
Yes.
that claims that the student names that will be given to keeping kids in school are from probation. So I'm trying to figure out, I don't, I mean, it's one
Yes.
thing for keeping kids in school, right? And then we have probation, which is, you know, criminal justice, so juvenile justice. So I'm trying to figure out where this relationship is. And I have the same question as Caitlin, why we have community-based organizations here in Petaluma and in the county. I'm just wondering why we have to have probation in there. We may have to, I'm just trying to get my mind around where, if we've had this relationship with keeping kids in school all this time, why these MOUs now, I guess, is getting down to that question.
So the MOUs are for 3 years. So this is actually a continued contract from, I think, I would guess more than 3 years. This predated me. Dave Rose worked with keeping kids in school as well. And so I think that they update them every 3 years. So the contract came up.
But I
And
mean,
so-
is keeping kids in school always with probation?
Yes, and the reason is because probation essentially is the district attorney's office. And the district attorney's function in the big picture of the county and the state is attendance. That's where the most egregious truancy issues eventually get referred. And so the district attorney could, I think, cut down on the numbers of referrals that were coming to the district attorney level. They put in a program in place. They contracted with a program, Keeping Kids in School, to do those tier 1 interventions. And that's why we use Keeping Kids in School, so that we don't have to refer to the DA as much.
If you have a SARB process, which is what every district has to have, the end of the line in all of it does end up in the responsibility of the district attorney. And so what you try to do is you try not to get there. You try, and we don't. I mean, it's literally you social service the heck out of it to try to address whatever the issues are. And primarily, you know, we don't have a lot of, you know, the biggest concern obviously is the younger the kids are.
Yeah, that's a lot of our attendance issues are with elementary.
In the home.
Gary, you're frozen.
Right. Those get, by the time there at that point, under legislation there, you're going to have the DA involved at some point in that.
You have to have the DA involved at some point.
My understanding.
At the end, though, so when I worked at Verity, I was a facilitator for some of, like, not keeping kids in school, but very similar programs that were for kids with a few more issues than just this. But probation did not need to be involved. I would have rather just contracted directly with the schools these kids were going to. Like, just the amount of extra paperwork and time and the resentment that these kids end up having for the schools and for probation is, I don't want to be a part of that.
But it sounds like, I mean, I agree. Yeah, I think we're all reacting to, I mean, when I see probation on this, you know, there's the red flag is raised, but it sounds like, Liz, that this is the DA, that keeping kids in school is actually the DA's intervention to keep kids from getting to the DA's level.
Yes, that's correct.
So the SARB is, I always thought SARB was a school related.
It's the school attendance review board that happens at the district level. So the school level one is the SART, the school attendance review team, where you have a team of administrators, counselors, teachers, meeting with parents. But if it escalates beyond that and the student continues to have truancy issues, it gets referred to the district, where we run SARB panels. And Maddie, that's where you asked about the information share. Like I said, Chelsea, through Keeping Kids in School, does sit on our SARB panels. So she is privy to, student names that have been referred to SARB. Again, so that she can come up with proactive ways to keep us from then potentially having to refer a parent if the student is underage, or a student if it's an adult student, to the district attorney.
So then one of the data shared by the school district, one of the questions I had was that school-wide, district-wide attendance data is given regularly. They will have access.
That's through, yes.
I'm trying to figure out, I mean, we have the rationale for sharing this data that's district-wide if it's unnecessary. I mean, we have individual student data, right, that we access through, our attendance records.
I mean, yes,
I'm just not,
maybe.
sorry, what?
Maybe it's to observe trends in.
That's what it says, but what we have our own trends. We have dashboard data. I'm just trying to figure out, this is a
Oh no, I'm
new
agreeing.
thing for me. So I'm just trying to get my brain around what we're signing.
So I think they don't just have access to our student information system. What they have access to is when we bring a student to a SART meeting or a SARB meeting, they can see the number of times that student's been absent, or do they have an 82% truancy rate? That those are the things that
when you have
will know, so they can participate in the meeting.
When you have a panel, those individuals that are on the panel are going to meet those families. They will know who those families are. That's part of being on the panel
Right.
to service that.
Right. But they have two different listings for data to be shared. One is student attendance records individually as requested by case managers or probation staff.
If it got to a case manager, then yes.
And then also available school and district-wide attendance data. It doesn't say disaggregated. It doesn't say recommended. It just is all of the attendance data.
Yes, I see what you're saying. That so oftentimes, so Chelsea and I meet every other week, and we talk about, and we essentially look at schools and we say, which elementary school currently has the highest truancy rate? Can you reach out to that principal and see, if there's any students they want to refer for those, tier 1 interventions that she does. And so that would be the district-wide attendance rate. What schools may be in more need, may need more support from her. It's a very broad brush of
not individual
truancy,
students,
not individual students.
And this doesn't necessarily go to probation.
No.
Oh, no. And this stuff like that would be things you can find on our LCAP reports.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. It's on our dashboard.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Which I guess, yeah.
The only information that Seneca has would be information that we provided to them. Mm-hmm. They don't have access to go into Aries or go into any other one of our informational systems.
Okay.
I think saying DA is kind of very startling. It is to me. It's one thing to hear probation, but when you say DA, that just sounds so.
But here's the reality of the situation. We have a significant number of parents who from time to time make a decision to not send their kids to school, not because there's a particular reason other than they just don't feel like sending them to school. And that's against penal code 270.1. And so there are situations you try to work with them, and most of the time you're able to work with them and find out that there's certain situations that are going on that they need some services. Parent lost their job, all of those. Nobody's going to go after a parent from a school district if there truly are issues. But if it is outward defiance of sending kids to school, that's against the law. So you have to at some point have a referral system to the district attorney, because they're obligated under Ed Code 48-2092 and Penal Code 272 to be that final agent. how many students actually ever even get there, Liz, to that role?
Well, again, last year, 0, because SAR got canceled altogether. And the year before that, I think maybe we ended up referring 3 or 4 students to the district
Yeah.
attorney's office.
I mean, I understand that at the end of the road, that's what has to happen. I just don't think that the middleman, we don't need probation as the middleman. I don't think. I've seen it be the middleman. I don't like it.
I don't think they are. I think the middleman is.
Why don't you have Liz? Why don't we bring her for a presentation? So because
Okay.
I think it's I think it's Caitlin brings up a good question. Is about the board is. It sounds to me like the board is interested in knowing the flow chart process. Like we want to see a flow chart of how a student works through. How do we case manage? Because we are case managing a kid. The minute we start making that first letter that goes out from the school secretary, we are case managing that student in their attendance. And hopefully it never gets to the point where you're taking a parent in front of a judge or some kind of family court. But that happens in some districts, because then there's other things that are going on in the family. But I think if we bring why don't we table this item, then we can bring it back, and because I think it's probably a good thing to get fleshed out.
Is there a deadline when we have to approve this?
No.
Trust me, they get stuff like this pushed for a very long time. I used to be the one that had to chase down signatures. Shit like that.
Yeah, not a problem.
And Liz, thank you. I mean, I can see the real benefit of this. I just there as Sheldon said, there were those red flags that I really would appreciate to have that flow chart and to hear what the case manager has to say.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Chelsea and have her come present at an upcoming meeting.
So do we need to move to have the MOUs?
Yeah, I'm going to move to pull and table items 10.4.1 and 10.4.2.
Second.
Okay, any further comments on that proposal? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. We're pulling items 10.4.1 and 10.4.2 for a future meeting when we'll hear a presentation on that flow process. That will actually be really helpful for us to understand this process better. So I appreciate that flexibility. Are there any other discussion on the rest of the consent agenda?
We don't have a motion.
Yeah, I move to the consent agenda.
I second.
All right. Now, are there any further discussions on the remaining consent agenda items?
I do.
Go ahead, Manny.
Okay, circle up. I'm sorry, Liz, it's you again, I think.
Yep.
I know that there was substantial changes, and I was just wondering if you could kind of go over some of the highlighted ones that are different. I did notice a couple of things that one was the second year or the third year, 22-23 is completely different, and it refers to RISA Climate Up services. So if you could just kind of give us some bullet points of what's different.
Definitely.
And also explain why they've increased over $30,000 each year.
Yes. So I will give you all that right now. So for 21-22, Circle Up added a series of training for secondary administrators, and they called it Leadership 45 and Counselors. And this came specifically from the meeting that we had with Tiffany, Joanna Pond, and Ellen Webster, where they talked about the idea of wanting to make sure that all of the counselors got trained in all of Leadership 45. So there was a bump in cost to add that series for training for every one of our administrators and all of our secondary counselors. For that year, for the upcoming year, they also added a restorative justice design guides, which is similar to the binder that the practitioners got this year, except the binders for designing restorative justice practices, because there was mention that we wanted to delve something deeper into direct impact with students and start reaching out to students through the process sooner. So that was also added for the admin and for the practitioners, since both groups will be using it in the coming year. And then some of the language in that year was details that it explicitly mentioned students now, because the concern from the last board meeting was that, you know, we couldn't see the impact from Circle Up to students directly. And so it really fleshes that out. Then for the 22-23 school year, instead of duplicating the 21-22 table, which is what they had initially done when I brought it forward last time with the same services, Tiffany went back and she just created a new table with the product, the Climate Up services, which does school climate, equity, diversity, and conflict resolution services. And it's a bundle service not to exceed the amount that we're spending in 21-22. Again, that cost had gone up because of the addition of the Leadership 45 and counselor track. But what it does, the reason she wrote it that way is to help prevent confusion, so that it didn't look like we're doing the exact same thing in 22-23 that we're doing in 21-22. And so it's written to give us flexibility around growing our Leadership 45 and counselor track the following year, going deeper with our practitioners the following year, and training student advisors the following year without having all the specifics in there, because we don't know where we're going to get to by the end of 2021-22.
And I just want to say that this new one really reflects the conversation and the questions that Joanna and I brought forth and things we wanted to see changed. I think Tiffany did a really good job of responding to our needs and issues.
Well, that was going to be my question, was how did Liz and Ellen and Joanna feel about it? So sounds good.
Okay.
I agree with Ellen.
Thank you for that extra effort. That's really.
This only makes it a better process when you do this.
Absolutely. And
I really appreciate it.
And training where it needs to happen, like with counselors and administrators.
Yeah.
I was really pleased to see site leadership on there.
Absolutely.
That's so key for making this work.
Yeah.
Other comments on the consent agenda? I'm going to recuse myself from voting because of my wife is affected by 10.1.4, but I think we are ready for a vote. So all those in favor say aye.
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 And one abstain. So Michelle, that's 3 aye and 1 abstain.
Got it. Thank you.
Great. Moving along, we are at item 11. Let me see what that is. Dang, item 10 was long. All right, comments from the public on action items. So if you have any comments on agenda items on number 12, this is the time to put your name in the chat with the item you want to speak on.
Was that a sneeze?
No, it was a yawn. It looked like you were yawning, and yawns are contagious for my little lizard brain.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were yawning, but
Sorry.
Okay, we'll close the chat.
All right, we don't have comments on action items, so we are on item 12.1, Administration, Human Resources, 12.1.1, excuse me, amended resolution 1718-29, Board of Education of Petaluma City Schools, calling for commitment to climate action. Maddie, would you like to introduce this? Just briefly discuss what we were going.
I think you're muted, Maddie.
Okay. Yes, I'd love to. So the resolution of the Board of Education of Petaluma City Schools, Elementary and Petaluma Joint Union High School Districts, County of Sonoma, State of California, calling for commitment to climate action. Whereas climate change is a global issue that must be addressed locally, and whereas California's 4th climate assessment estimates that if greenhouse gas emissions are not reduced, the average water supply from California's snowpack is projected to decline to 2/3 of historical levels by 2050, and total sea level rise by 2100 is expected to be 54 inches. And whereas the fourth climate assessment also finds that actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions also improve California's air quality, and whereas the California Global Warming Solutions Act of 2016, Senate Bill 32, called for a reduction of statewide greenhouse gas emissions to 40% below 1990 levels by 2030. Yet current projections show California is unlikely to reach the target at the current rate. And whereas climate change and extreme climate-related events, such as wildfires, floods, extreme heat, and public safety power shutoffs, directly impact the physical and economic health of communities in which our students and their families live, while also causing lost learning days. And whereas in 2019, the city of Petaluma declared a climate emergency and has made climate action a top priority for the city. And whereas schools in California and nationwide have the potential to affect positive, tangible environmental change while preparing students in their careers and civic life to be stewards of their environment. And whereas the implementation of the next generation science standards provides an opportunity for students to engage in real-world inquiry and application of science skills in understanding and addressing climate change. And whereas implementation of sustainable practices on school campuses, capital investments to improve energy efficiency, and other environmentally mindful purchasing decisions can yield significant cost savings for our schools while reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Petaluma City Schools commits to developing students' climate literacy and environmental literacy at all grade levels by integrating these topics into science, social studies, and other relevant subjects. And be it further resolved that PCS recognizes the increasing demand for a skilled workforce in the clean energy and sustainability sectors, and that PCS can help meet this demand by providing enriched learning opportunities for our students to prepare for careers in these emerging and important fields. And be it further resolved that PCS commits to supporting teachers in this endeavor with professional development on curricula in climate literacy, environmental literacy, and careers in sustainability. And be it further resolved that PCS commits to it, assessing its own greenhouse gas footprint from its regular operations, including but not limited to energy consumption, transportation, food services, construction, technology, solid waste, facilities and grounds maintenance, and prioritizing and pursuing opportunities for significant reductions. And be it further resolved that PCS will seek out creative and collaborative partnerships that connect our students and staff with local community groups, businesses, and city and county government on efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and promote sustainable practices. And be it further resolved that PCS transmits this resolution to the following: the boards of education for the school districts of Old Adobe, Waugh, Cinnabar, Liberty, Wilmar, Dunham, and Two-Rock, the Petaluma City Council, the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors, and the Sonoma County Board of Education.
Thanks, Maddie.
Thank you, Sheldon.
It's a great resolution.
Thanks to the prior board, including you, Ellen, for the original resolution, which put climate change on the map for this board. I think Maddie and our purpose here was trying to get a little more specificity, specifically with curriculum, and we already are seeing some of that in the LCAP that we're about to look at. And also with operations. And I know Chris has already been, identifying opportunities for us to do that with the electric buses we're getting, with the solar systems that we have and the microgrids, all that. But we wanted to put, in a resolution that the board supports this kind of action completely.
Well, I think it was a great addition to what we already did, and I really appreciate it.
And I want to mention that, I think several of us have already heard from, community groups that are eager to work with students and in the district and on issues that are related to climate change. I know Friends of the Petaluma River, Relief, Point Blue, all three of them I've heard from all three of them about their anxiousness to work with our students and our district on these kinds of activities. Any questions or comments on that one? Is there a motion to approve amended resolution 1718-29?
I move to approve very happily.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, I should just mention that this also came from the CSBA, that it's a top priority for them also, especially in Sonoma County.
Yeah. So the resolution passes unanimously, and I'm glad that this will go out to our partner districts and the city too, because it'll take everyone working together on these kinds of things.
I think it should also go to the Argus.
We're on to item 12.1.2, resolution 2021-36 on elimination of classified positions. Matthew, is this you?
Yes, this is this is the elimination of a campus security position at San Antonio High School and replacing it. It's a 7-hour campus security position, range 3, replacing it with a 7 or greater hour position, student advisor position. So the idea being student advisor has the same, it's a higher range position, and it has some of the similar duties, but also really kind of falling under the umbrella of more wellness, more trauma-informed care practices, get some training. Also has the ability to do some clerical work when students are in class, having the ability to do some lower level discipline. But really, it's really about those trauma-informed care practices and supporting students. So that's kind of the idea.
Sounds good.
I love to see it.
Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Further questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We are on item 12.1.3, approval of contract for Assistant Superintendent for Educational Services for the 2021-22 school year. So this is Tony.
Yeah, well, we got our presentation, so I move to approve.
I second it.
Any questions or comments?
No, thank
Real
you.
lucky to have him.
Yeah, sounds
Big
great.
shoes, big
Bye.
shoes to fill, but
Yeah.
it'll be good.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. 12.1.4, approval of the revised student attendance calendars for 2021-22 traditional and year-round schools.
I move to approve.
Second.
All right, any questions or comments or
I
Gary or
want
Matthew?
Matthew to share with the, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this process, we've met with our labor partners, with Petaluma Federation of Teachers, with CSEA, to discuss. One of the interests here is to expand learning opportunities through this. The ELO money that we're going to be receiving from the state. one of the ideas that we have is really thinking about that critical time when students are first coming back to campus. And so we're thinking, those first few days, and how do we increase the amount of social emotional support that we're going to be providing to students. Thinking of sort of like the week of welcome or social emotional week, where there's trying to lower the anxiety filter, allow students to come back, not diving right into the curriculum, but really kind of taking a few days to reset, reintegrate students back into full-time in-person learning. That's the idea. Now, because the calendar has been set with a clear start date for families and staff and a clear end date, we tried to work within the confines of that calendar. And so really the days that we're looking at in this revised calendar that impacts are the January 3rd and 4th. That would be the Monday and Tuesday after winter break, cutting down winter break from 2 weeks and 2 days down to 2 weeks. And then the February 11th date, moving that a Friday, which was a professional development day for teachers, but it was a non-student day, making that a student day and moving that professional development to the beginning of the year so that teachers and staff and administrators have a day to plan out that social emotional time with students as they first come back to campus. So that is the change. Our labor partners are in agreement with moving this forward to basically moving the academic student instructional number of days from the traditional 180 days, which is true every year, to 183 for next year as a one-time 2021-22 only. So it's a 1 year only agreement.
I think this is so important, because of what this past year has been for a lot of our students, and because so many of our, rising sophomores or eighth graders may not have even been to their campus yet. And so there's going to be a lot of orientation to the physical school sites and just acknowledgement of what this past year has been. And so I really appreciate that we're doing this. I do have a question though. Since the added days are in January and February, does that mean that the end of the third grading period is going to fall in January, or can it be in December still?
So we didn't move the grading periods. We still have a first semester or second semester.
One's going to be longer than the other.
Yeah, we did contemplate that. If we were to move forward, if future years we could start to look at that. We really wanted to honor and respect the fact that these calendars have been out and published. People have already planned their summer plans, and so we wanted to keep that start date the same for our families, even though our teachers will be coming back 1 day earlier than planned. But the reality of the situation is so many of our teachers are coming back way more than that to kind of get ready in their classroom. So it's an acknowledgement of that as well.
Great.
I move to approve.
We already did.
Oh, we did?
Good. I don't remember. Are there any further discussion then on this item? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Item 12.2.1, business services, approval of the adopted budget for Petaluma City Schools for the 2021-22 fiscal year. So we had our public hearing on this last Thursday. And so it's up for approval now. Do I have a motion?
And please note, this is also the final budget revision for 2020-21, budget revision number 5. And there's been no changes since we met last Thursday.
That was going to be my only question, which is unfortunately a fair question with this state government. Yeah.
All right, do we have a motion to approve?
I move to approve it.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Down to item 12.2.2, approval of resolution 2021-37. Let's see, to authorize designated personnel to sign contract and agreement documents for the fiscal year 2021-22. Chris, I think this seems pretty self-explanatory.
It's self-explanatory. The only change is it's for Matthew Harris, our new superintendent, and no longer Gary Callahan. So I'm happy and sad.
The logic holds water.
And
so-
I know Gary is super sad to not be signing stuff anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell because he's.
I am so sad.
Thanks, Gary.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Caitlin.
I'll
Second.
All right, thank you, Maddie. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, motion passes unanimously. Item 12.2.3, resolution 2021-38, regarding appointment of member and alternate to Redwood Empire Schools Insurance Group. Do I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
I'll second.
And I would also like to just say before you vote, if I may, that again, Matthew Harris is the alternate. I'm the member, and I have been elected to the executive committee, so I will be serving on their executive committee for 21-22.
Impressive.
Yay.
Excellent.
Get those rates,
I wonder who-
rates down.
It only took
Yeah.
5 years.
Can you get the rates down?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just
We
say
won't hold you to it.
we're going to be taking a closer look at some of the policies. Let's hope.
Thank you, Chris.
That's a really big, that is a really big deal. That was something that that we had to coordinate the efforts. What happens on the vote for that is every school district gets up to 2 votes. And so kudos to our South County partners that joined us to ensure that we had Petaluma representation.
Sounds like y'all did some GOTV, some get out the vote.
We did. We
I love
really
it.
did.
Well,
We're
Excellent. Thank you.
we're very thrilled.
Yeah, it's really tiresome to not have South County representation very often.
And it's an honor just to be nominated. I mean,
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Down to LCAP 2021-2024, Local Control and Accountability Plan. Again, we had our public hearing on Thursday. Cliff, is there anything else you want to add to this in comment?
No, there were no, no substantive changes, just a few typos here and there that we fixed. And then you'll see later on in discussion information, the charter LCAPs don't have to be approved by the board, they just have to be received. So that's why they're not in action.
I see.
Okay.
But I did review them with our charter principles, and I'm happy to say these are probably the best LCAPs of charters I've put together since I've been here. They truly have morphed into their own LCAP, not just a carbon copy of the districts with their name on them. So Chris has worked hard with them as well to make sure they're fully articulating their version of costs that the district is supporting, and then how they're using their funds that have been allocated to them. So that's just a little bit why they're separate, but no changes to the LCAP.
It's nice to hear about the charters.
Mhm.
And I want to thank you and Jason for leading the development of the LCAP, and to all the parents and community members who have participated in it. I know it's been a big group and they've put in a lot of energy here, and it shows.
Yeah. Agreed.
Thank you.
Here's
Yeah.
a motion to approve the LCAP for 2021-2024.
I moved
So
to
moved. I hate Zoom.
I hate Zoom.
So moved.
All right, Caitlin moves. I think Ellen seconds.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Any further?
I don't know,
comments?
Cliff, I want to ask you all these questions because That's what we do.
You know, you guys just voted in Tony, so maybe we can promote him.
Give him a little taste.
Actually, we've been meeting all day today, and we've talked a lot about the LCAP, so
It looks good.
he'll be able to take it to the next level.
Well, thank you. We'll miss you.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, all those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Down to, let's see, comments from the public on discussion and informational items. If you would like to speak on any item under agenda item number 14, this is the time to put your full name in the chat with the topic of your comment.
I think we can close this. I'll make a comment at the end of the meeting.
Okay. So there are no comments, and these are the LCAPs that Cliff was just speaking about.
Yeah, the first three are the charter LCAPs. 14.1.4 is the district annual update. It used to be part of the LCAP. It will be back in the LCAP next year. But again, that doesn't need approval. And then I'm sorry, I've got my background blurred. When I got to work today, my office was moved. And I was
senioritis.
I was placed in the bathroom. So I'm trying to hide it for everybody. It was a farewell prank. So
I find it's very
like
efficient.
Gary Callahan prank.
No.
I think,
No.
no,
That was
you need to turn off the lights.
I think that was an episode of The Office, I think. Yeah.
they did turn the light off on me. Yes, that happened as well.
In full disclosure, it was payback for Cliff moving my car in the middle of the day and not telling me where it was and letting me think my car was stolen.
That's so scary.
You guys, you're like little boys.
No proof. No proof.
You crazy kids.
All right, any further discussion on those items? We saw them on Thursday. Okay, item 15, future business. And in addition to all those things listed under 15.1, we're adding from today, presentation on keeping kids in school, the flow chart process, and then bringing back those MOUs to an agenda.
I would like to get a date set for the presentation on the arts and SEL. I talked to Elizabeth, and so I'd like to be able to give her an idea. I don't know if we don't need to do it tonight, but I need to be able to give her an idea about when we want to hear from her. Maybe in October.
Refresh my memory, Ellen, about this topic.
It's on future business. It's,
right.
It's a presentation about how the arts tie in with social emotional learning. In her district, they put it in their LCAP, so there was money behind it. So she's just going to make a presentation on that. And I've talked to her, and I would like to, say, okay, thank you for putting this work in. We actually have a date for you to come in. So it doesn't have to be tonight, but I would like to just put that on the burner.
Should that have an S in front of it? So it's SEL and arts presentation?
Yeah, social emotional learning and arts.
It just has an E on mine.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. It is SEL.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else? So I want to acknowledge that this is the last board meeting for Superintendent Gary Callahan and Assistant Superintendent Cliff DeGraw. And I want to publicly acknowledge and thank them on behalf of the town for your dedication to the children of Petaluma and your hard work in keeping this district running and working well. We've had some very, very challenging times here, and I am very grateful for your leadership and effort.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I would like to thank you for teaching me how to be the board president. All of a sudden finding it thrust on me after 2 years and not being prepared. And I'm going to miss you very
Yeah, we went through some crazy, that was a crazy time.
Yes,
Crazy
it
time.
was.
I mean, you basically had a whole new board
Yeah.
and
Yep.
board president, and I can't, Sheldon said it perfectly, but I just want to personally thank both of you for helping me understand a lot of this job and supporting us in all the different ways you do, without a lot of, drama or question. So I really appreciate it. I'm really going to miss you both.
Well, how am I supposed to follow all of that?
You don't have to.
Just say bye.
Well, I spoke at your retirement party, but I didn't say anything about Cliff. So Cliff, you'll be very much missed. I appreciate your sense of humor and dedication to all of our students and families. And
I'm glad you never had access to my car keys.
yeah, but I'm glad Gary never had access to any of my light switches. So
There you go. There you go. Well, Cliff, what do you want? Cliff, you want to say anything before we bow out here? Or are we going to sing our song or what?
Yeah, we've been preparing a song. No,
I'm gonna cry.
Oh, please.
no, I'm kidding.
No song?
I prepared a video to a Whitney Houston song. It's gonna make everyone cry. No. Yeah, well, what a crazy 5 years. I can't believe it's been 5 years. It seems like I just was in the same board meeting in Tony's position. And while I feel like we've done a lot of great work over the last few years, today I was leaving Tony a lengthy list of things to continue or to make better. And it felt like a list of things that I failed at. So I was trying not to look at it that way, but just I really feel like Kim and I, Jason and I have done a lot of really good work, and I'm really excited for Tony to take it to the next level. It was always my goal to leave this position, leave this district in a better place than I found it, and I really think that through our team and through the two boards that I was able to serve under, we really have moved the work forward. Obviously, just have some great friendships with people in the organization and the community on this screen that I won't forget. And it's a small world. I'm sure we'll run into each other at some point in the education world. But just thank you for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure and a blessing, and I wish you all the best.
So Cliff, it's been 5 years, so you and I started at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 5 years, 6 LCAPs.
Who's counting, right?
We had to redo the one when Chris and I started. So Tony, you're welcome. You don't have to redo it.
That's right.
We'll miss you, Cliff.
Well, and I really wish you well in your new position, and I hope that it all really works out the way that you hoped.
And that new district is lucky to have you.
Yeah, and that superintendent.
They are lucky. They are definitely lucky to have Cliff, that new superintendent, definitely. So, I look at the team. This is a great team. I'll say my goodbyes in the next couple days to each and every one of you. But it's ironic because we have all of 31 people on this, and 16 of us are panelists. But this is being recorded. And I think what I wanted to talk about was I wanted to answer the question, do school boards matter? And the answer is a resounding yes. the truth of the matter is you can't have a good school district and a bad school board. You have to have a solid school board to have a solid district. And this has been an amazing, I've been very lucky because I've felt like I've had two boards that I could really work with. This is a great board. And, I was looking back, and I know you're going to do some work in July. I'm going to give you some more specific stuff at the end of the week. But what you're going to look back on is, well, so what was accomplished in 19 and 20? And a lot of people thought of 2021 as kind of a throwaway year. And a throwaway in the sense of, getting things done from an adult to an adult perspective. But there has been so much that's been done. But what's really interesting about it is they all started with board goals. So just case in point, we started looking, and I went back and I looked at our board goals. We knew that some of these initiatives were big monster initiatives that would take years to accomplish. So the first one was developing multi-year professional development around this big, scary, and important concepts about equity and diversity and inclusivity. And we're on our way. We're moving on that. We're starting to move the needle and have the discussions that we need to have in relation to that. Our second goal was we wanted to develop a plan and actually implement steps to increase our diversity in our hiring. Well, look at our diversity in hiring that we've had in the last 2 years. It's been really significant, and it continues going into next year. And it's incrementally making those steps. The third area was to give kids additional access and streamline high school courses, so they had the ability to go to another school to receive coursework. Now they can do that. That's because that was a board goal. And that's only going to benefit kids down the way. The fourth goal was, and remember when we were developing goals in 19, things looked a lot gloomier budget-wise. So we wanted to look at how do we explore district revenue generation opportunities. And we've done that. There have been some significant things that have taken place, some in the nature of some strategic cuts that we made, but also things such as bringing program back. So we have brought back a significant number of programs that take it like the transitional program that just next year, had we not brought that back, and Chris and Molly and the team and Melinda spearheaded that, we'd be looking at a bill at about $57,000 a student for those programs. So we have saved literally millions of dollars over in a very short period of time because of that work. Our fifth goal was improving district-wide communications. And you got a presentation tonight about finally we have a platform where parents feel like they can manage the communication. There's still a lot to do in all those areas. And we're not anywhere near that. And the board's going to come up with some new goals. Hopefully they'll keep some of these that will continue. How do we take them to the next level? But that's really because of you guys did this. You helped set the direction. And that's good boards matter. They really, really do. And I was really fortunate to work with a great board. So my life was easy. I just needed to find good people, and they're right in front of you. And most of them will be back next year. And the one that's not in the bathroom, he's going with my wife. So it'll be fine. But I really want to thank everybody. And, I certainly am not going to vanish. I will stay in touch with each and every one of you. I'll make sure I hunt you down, Quinn. Absolutely. I think we're done.
Yeah.
It's been a long year. And you know what, you guys.
This is crazy.
Wow. You did really, really good work. This is, you can always say when people say, what charity do you give to? You can tell them I give to Petaluma City Schools. I give them with my blood, my sweat, and my tears. So thank you.
I don't want to adjourn the meeting.
I don't either.
definitely
I
going
was
to.
gonna say, luckily it's Sheldon's job, not y'all, so.
I'm just,
In fact, I would love, yeah, let's go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, thank you.
Bye-bye.
bye.